Hi, good night. It's Cafeteria Lavish with Mona in the Fatigable Heights, and I am interviewing tonight Mr. William Anderson, the chair of the Allegheny County Democratic Black Caucus of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are speaking about Peter Spencer, a Jamaican immigrant who was lured to the woods and was actually killed by a ex co-worker and alleged friend of his that he had been to see before. So we're going to be speaking with Mr. Anderson tonight, and we're going to be getting the specifics of the case. He is the chair of the Allegheny Democratic Black Caucus. So, William, I'm just going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us about the Black Caucus, and I want you to flow into the conversation because you do flow. So, just go ahead and tell us what it is that you wanted to inform us about Peter Spencer. Give us all the details so we can understand exactly what has occurred with this Jamaican immigrant that was killed so savagely in Allegheny, in Venango County.
A little bit about my background and how I come to be involved. So my name is William. So hello everyone. My name is William Anderson. I'm the chair of the Allegheny County Democratic Black Caucus, and I'm also the chief of staff for the Democratic National Committee Black Caucus, along with having a political legacy and a heritage in my family as being the grandson of the late Honorable Evelyn D. Richardson. My grandmother was born in New Kensington, Pennsylvania, and was one of the first African Americans elected to the Democratic National Committee in the history of the committee. And when she passed away in 2015, she was both the longest serving member of the Democratic National Committee in the world, and she was the oldest living member at 93. So I have a history of my entire life fighting for the rights of those that either could not or would not speak and fight for themselves. Right. So here in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area where we have a small population of Jamaican immigrants here, and because I have a few members of my family that are actually real Jamaicans from Jamaica that I actually brought here, to this country, that I understand and have a different understanding of the life and what happens to Jamaican immigrants in this country. And as I've, been in during this fight, I've had to explain to, multiple people the challenges that, Jamaican immigrants face in this country, as I feel as one of the least represented immigrant populations in America.
Thank you. I agree with that.
So I got involved with Mr. Spencer's case because my cousin, who is actually a Jamaican, he was born here in America, but once he was born, his father, because his father was from Jamaica, took him back to Jamaica, and he was raised as a Jamaican citizen, lived his whole life in Jamaica. Wow. So when I traveled with my cousin to Jamaica, we brought him back to America for the first time as an adult, So I understand, what people and immigrants from Jamaica go through, because I was not in, I've been to Jamaica on cruises, I've been to the beach, but I've also experienced the life as Jamaican everyday citizens do, right? I've been to St. Thomas, Jamaica, right, where it's dirt roads, where you have to get up in the morning and go to the well to get fresh water. The best water I've ever tasted in my life, but to go to but what it took to get that, the things that me as an African American often takes for granted, I had a deeper appreciation for the struggles and the life that Jamaicans leave their country and their families behind to seek in America, and to seek out the American dream. So that's why this burns my soul even more, right? Because this was a young man at 29 years old that had only been in this country in the search of the American dream since 2013. And he has never, no one should ever be able to write the end of someone's history without them living out their lives themselves.
Right. What I want to know, William, is what happened on the night or evening of December 11th to December 12th, 2021 to Peter Spencer? What are the circumstances leading up to his demise? What exactly do we know about what happened?
Peter Spencer, he one of his former work colleagues, Nathan Myers, had invited him to come to Venango County to we're not he wasn't going to, it's been reported that he was going to a hunting trip and they brought him up there to hunt and things like that, but we're not they he did not go up there for a hunting trip. In Pennsylvania you need a hunting license in order to hunt. So this is just part of the narrative that we're trying to correct. So Mr. Myers, as far as our understanding is Mr. Myers simply invited Nathan up, to his, as Nathan's understanding, to Peter's understanding was to come up to his mother's house as he's done, previous times. And this was the first time that the fiance had ever taken Peter to a location in Venango County outside of Nathan Myers' mother's house. Wow. So on this occasion, Peter's fiance dropped him off at Nathan's, or at it was a mobile home, she said, far off into the woods. Wow. So this time when she dropped him off, it was at a different location than prior times that Peter had been to Venango County, and Peter worked in Venango County with Nathan Myers doing telemarketing. So so it was his job to go. They would go do the door to door, try to get you to transfer your electric service, or try to get you to buy some type of internet or some type of service like that. He was working, with this man. So he felt comfortable, comfortable enough to be trusting, right? Because Peter, and people often have said to me, why would Peter go in the woods with four white men? Why would Peter, as he's black, why would he go in the woods? And I tell them, because Peter was not an American citizen. Had Peter been African American male that was born in America, that was raised with the racist, protectants and the racist feelings and the racist treatment that we face as black men our entire lives since we're born in this country, right? He did not come from a country like that. He did not come from a country where racial discrimination based on your color occurs. So he did not have that fear him. He did not have that instinct that as a black man that you don't go in the woods with white men. So he came to America with this American dream and in this, give me your wretched yearning to be free, mentality, that he was free as a person in a country that guarantees freedom and protectness to everyone that is on its land, that he could, explore America freely without fear of having his life sensibly, taken and being lynched and being hunted. So that's what happened. So then, because he was a free spirited person and was open to explore, and a young man that wanted to explore and wanted to see the beauties and the boundaries of our, mountain majesty, and and all of the things that are in our great national anthem that that we sing and we say to the world that we're this great country. But when the fact of a black man comes and tries to seek out that American dream, he is murder. He is lynched in the woods, and no one is held accountable. Right. So once the fiance drops him off about 2:45 in the afternoon at this cabin in the woods, Peter tells her, "Okay, honey, ping my location so that you can know where I'm at, so you can know where to come and pick me up, exactly." So then after that, once the fiance attempts to ping Peter's location, she cannot do that because they're in such a desolate area, because Venango County is in between Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Erie, Pennsylvania, which is up north. So it's somewhere around, for most people, that if you're familiar with 79 in Pennsylvania, it runs north up to Erie, and it's around Grove County, where it's like shopping. That's where all of our outlets and things like that are. But it's a very desolate, isolated, wooded area with a minority population of probably 0.1% or something like that.
So, William, you mentioned that Peter and Mr. Myers were ex co-workers and somewhat friends. So you believe that this is what allowed him to develop a semblance of some trust as to why he would be out there with him?
Co-worker of his. I think Peter worked up there maybe last year or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but they did they did telemarketing. So they went door to door, and they sold different type of telemarketing products. They either tried to get you to something, when people knock on your door and try to get you, say, do you have internet service? Well, or do you can switch your electric provider? And they were paid on a commission basis. So it was a competitive thing, I guess, between the different associates to see, because the more you sold, the more you got paid, just without any job that is a commission-based job. So that's what I.
And William, how many times would you say that Peter had visited with Mr. Myers before off visiting with him and being dropped off?
Exactly how many times, but he had gone up there prior, but he'd never gone alone. So every other time that she'd ever dropped him off, it would be Peter and a group of his friends. Oh. It would be 3 or 4 people. It would never be Peter by himself. Peter had never. I don't even believe Peter had ever even been, invited there alone prior to this incident. And but to my understanding is that this is the first time that the fiance had ever dropped Peter, both ever dropped Peter off alone, and this is the first time that the fiance had ever dropped Peter off at this desolate location outside of Nathan Myers' mother's house.
Okay, I want to say, is that the reason why all over the blogs and in the media, what I'm seeing is that everybody wants to know why would a black man be going into the woods with, multiple white men, and the narrative about hunting, it's been very confusing.
Why would Peter go in the woods with this white man? Yeah. And as I said before, is you cannot blame Peter for coming to this country, not being bred in this country, not having bred in him the racist, reality that African American men in this country know every day, because we face it from the time we were born. Right? When I was born, and the day that I was born in the hospital, because my skin was so light, they told my mom that I had jaundice. Right? Just because the color of my skin and my eyes were light. Right? We're talking back in 1972. So in modern day Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because two African American parents have a light skinned child, then to the hospital and to the staff, that's it's a phenomenal with hazel eyes. So and my eyes were blue when I was born, so it was even a more bigger surprise to them. Right. So this is something that we as African American men, and if you spent a large amount of time in this country, you, as a black person, no matter where you're from in the world, you will come to an immediate in a foregoing conclusion that this country is ultimately discriminatory against people of color. in our lives, aren't as valuable as, those from other places, should I say, that don't have the hue of our skin.
My next question for you is, how did Peter react when he saw the other men? Like when he came up to the camp and he saw that there were multiple men and not just his one friend, Mr. Myers, that he thought would have been there. What was his reaction? Was he reluctant to stay? Did he express anything like that? Did his fiance say?
I mean, Peter, like I said, Peter was a bright spirit, like the son from God. There are no fears. When you're a man of faith, when you've given your life to God, why would you be afraid to go and enjoy the beautiful woods that God has made? The painting, the dreams that you have, the things that you've seen on television, the great mountains of this country, the great landscapes, right? The beautiful skies, the way the sun reflects off the changing of the leaves in great wondrous Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Who would not be open to that if you're not embedded with racism, that this is dangerous, this is something that you do not do because these people will kill you. Nobody should ever live their life with an expectancy that they cannot do something because they will lose their life,
Right.
right? And he has the right as a human being to go where he pleases and to explore as he feels his heart's desire. And these people had no right, to take that from him and to spoil him. And we won't let anybody, trying to disparage this young man's ending of this young man's life and make it anything other than it was, which is a racist act of domestic terrorism. And we're demanding these people are immediately arrested and prosecuted. Like I've told everyone, in that I know that I've helped or that my grandmother has helped in the political career, that I will use every means at my disposal, everything that I've done, anyone that I've helped, to make sure that this young man gets justice. And I'm demanding that, from the governor of our state to our attorney general to the U.S. Department of Justice to the president of the United States, to the prime minister of Jamaica. I've contacted.
Speaking of which, Mr. Anderson, have you been able to get any information from the Prime Minister of Jamaica or any of the Jamaican elected officials about Peter Spencer? Have you been able to relay any information? Do you know if they even know what's going on or what has taken place?
No, no, and I'm appalled by it. I'm appalled that a Jamaican citizen that was assassinated in this country, that the Jamaican government has said nothing about this. There has been, as far as to my knowledge, there's been no response to any, you know, any communication that we've had with them. I personally called the Jamaican embassy, on several occasions. I've sent the Jamaican embassy, several different letters. We sent our letter from BPEP. We sent it out to everyone. I've made a call. I've spoken to, the people at the embassy. I've told them about this. I've sent all of the information. I've, tagged on all my social media. I've sent, emails. I've given them every opportunity, you know, to be informed about this and to do something about this. Because had this happened to an American in Jamaica, America would have invaded Jamaica. No American would be allowed on Jamaican soil. They would have banned it travel to Jamaica. They would have, issued embargoes on Jamaica, right? So when a Jamaican immigrant is lynched, shot 9 times at 29 years old, that have only been in this country through since 2013, where is the outrage for this young man? Where is the protectness that I watched a video of the prime minister give to people that are being deported or not allowed to return to Britain because they destroyed their immigration records and things like that. So where is the fight for this young man? I saw him, say that he's for civil rights, right? He's for protectors, non-discriminatory. He's going to wait for the process to go forward to see if he's going to change the laws regarding, homosexuality because, there's a new generation, 45, million people that are 29 in under, or it's the largest population of Jamaica. This young man is in that demographic that he swore that he was going to protect. So we expect people not to give fancy speeches. I'm not accepting any we're working behind the scenes or any of that stuff. We need immediate justice for this young man.
Right.
We demand a prime minister, the head of the embassy, or whoever claims to be in charge and the national world representative of Jamaica to stand up and speak out and demand justice for your citizen that has been slaughtered on the lands of America.
Okay. All right. I wanted to know, William, and I've been reading the blogs and I've been reading the room, and a lot of people are questioning as to why this was termed as a lynching, or what's the definition of a hate crime, and when does it become not just like someone being murdered, but a lynching.
I think your question was about the hate crime statute and how are we trying to get it raised to the level, in all of our claims we're definitely saying that this is a hate crime. So like I said, for anybody that's watching this or anything, I'm not an attorney, so don't quote me exactly. Don't try to sue me or send me for false. So none of this is legal advice or anything. No, so I'm not an attorney, but I believe that to reach the level of a hate crime, you have to prove malice forethought. You have to prove malice intent, and the crime has to be done in such a heinous manner to and be of a minority class citizen. I think the technical term or something like that is. So any attack against a minority class based on their race, religion, creed, or sexual orientation can be considered as a hate crime. And what we're saying in our argument for this as a hate crime is, and the facts that we can clearly lay out, is that one, Peter's clearly not only a minority but a super minority, because one, he's not even a citizen of the United States, so he's not only a minority in the sense that he was a young black male, but he is also a minority because he is an immigrant. So that would cover two statutes of the hate crime, to make it a hate crime, right? Because he's an immigrant from another country coming here seeking the protectance of our country. So then he's a black male, right? So then he's in an area that has minuscule to zero of a black population, right? So there in Venango County, in the town where this happened, there are only 1,200 people, and I would be surprised if there were more than three people of color, period. Black, like Latino, anything, that is darker than pure white, Caucasian, some person that, believe that, as we've seen, and as today is the anniversary of, the insurrection of, the attack on the U.S. Capitol.
Today.
Today is just, happens to fall on the same day that we gave Peter back to the Lord, and put him back in the ground, returned him to the earth that he came from, so we need to, and the other reason that we're saying that it's a hate crime is because Peter was Lord, right? So he was basically, targeted like some animal to be hunted, like some game, some sport.
So you're saying then that Peter was lured and deceptively brought to this location to be hunted and to be allegedly dealt with in this manner, and that's the reason why we would say that he was lynched, because it was premeditated and it was planned and it was done in a cohesive fashion.
Yes, I mean, and that's a lot of like the issues of being a black man in this country. That no matter what you do, people, for the most part, you're the assailant. No matter what happens to you, right? You're shot 9 times in a wooded area that you've never been to a day in your life, but still somehow, some way, that was your fault, right? And nobody is being held accountable. Nobody's taking responsibility, right? And had we not gotten involved and brought this public, Peter would have just been just another dead black man in the woods, and nobody would have cared, you know, because they don't have any representation, and there's such a lack of respect for human life, period.
I wanted to ask you also. I wanted to state something. When I was reading the blogs, and as I said, I've been reading the rooms, and the statements are, let the Jamaicans handle it. The ADOS, the American descendants of slavery, aka, they are out there and they're saying, well, when we speak to people from the Caribbean or we speak to Jamaican people, they don't believe in racism. They always say racism doesn't exist. They always say, the not all white people are like that. That's not their experience with white people and things like that. Of the um, the slavery and the racism and the systematic racism that is present in the United States, that Jamaican people and Caribbean people do not believe in it, and it's sort of like a bias on the part of the American descendants of slavery, because they have been through so much, and it's been systematically beat into them, the system of slavery, that it sits on their chest and their heart, and they know it so well, and that's why none of them, like, it's I don't think it's they're the ones that's being caught out in the woods. It's the other people. I think maybe this has been happening to more immigrants, and maybe they've done this to other immigrants before. Let's just call a thing a thing. um the experience that I've had is that we do not in Jamaica exist with the Caucasians as you do in America, like all day, every day. Like in Jamaica, we're still semi segregated, I would say, because we are not on par nor on a level with the Caucasian population. All right, these are the ones that have the affluence and the wealth in Jamaica. I don't know any poor Caucasian people in Jamaica. And I'm not generalizing. I keep trying to think back in my mind, and I don't know any. So, like, we do not get to study the etymology of the Caucasian. We do not just get to study their deep and abiding racism, because we do not experience it in our country like that. So that's the reason why you will hear that, and the reason is because for primary education, we do not go to the same schools. We go to public schools. Their children are afforded private schools, so their children will go to the preparatory schools in Jamaica, and Jamaica's system is not racism. It's something else. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience of that?
That very few Americans actually get, because when they go to Jamaica, they see the glory of it. They see the beaches. They come there, and it's the best time they've ever had in their lives. But they don't go past the touristy part, and they don't get to see the real life of Jamaican citizens. That there isn't any true racism in Jamaica, because it's a classism system. So if you don't have money, then you don't, prosper, and you have to work hard. And to get into the school, you have to, if you don't have money and not able to buy your way into private school, the only way you get that great secondary education is you have to, I believe it's somewhere, you have to perform somewhere in the 98th percentile to even get into, the school where you're ever going to even see a white person. So your whole life you don't even live, or you don't even get a chance to look into the mind of a white person, really, because it's all based on money. It's an economically driven system. So if you have money, you're able to associate with other white people, because they think that they would never think that you're equal, but they will think that you're okay because you fit into the class that they are in, and you've somehow made it to where they're at in your country, right? So you have 90, I believe it's 92%, black population in the Caribbean of island of Jamaica. So you have a minority controlled country that you don't deal with these issues that as an American, African American, born in this country, that I deal with, like I said, from the time literally that I was born till till today.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, and January 6, 2022. Today that in Jamaica, where I was there, for almost a week, and I didn't see any white people, right? It was all people that looked like me. It was all love. It was all family. It was all, there was no feeling that somebody was looking at me, because I was black. Right? I'm not saying that I didn't go in the store and they look at me like, oh, what you doing here? You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a capability of stuffing something in my pocket too, but it wasn't the, what I mean? It wasn't
Right.
that, but it wasn't the aura of because I'm black, right? And because of the color of my skin, because they're threatened by me that I'm going to take something that they stole. How can I steal something that you already stole? So you're on, stolen land, claiming that it's yours because you think that the people that you stole it from are going to, overcome the oppression that you created. And that fear of that has gone around, not only the country but the world, but especially here in America, has decimated and made our democracy a little less, democratic.
Right. My Okay, so tell me what happened once she dropped him off. When did she know that something was wrong, and when did she know that she wasn't able to contact him?
So the fiance, she dropped Peter off around 2:45 in the afternoon at this desolate location, different from the location that she prior dropped him off on prior occasions. Him and his friend, at she said it was like a mobile home or something, in the woods. So it was a mobile home, or I'm not sure because we haven't had the opportunity to go and see for ourselves. But she said she dropped him off at a mobile home. Then he tells her to ping his location so that she knows where he's at. They say to her goodbye. She leaves him, and then once she tries to attempts to ping his location, she can't ping his location because they're so desolate in the woods. So once she drives a while and she's able to get cell phone service, she texts him. So once she texts Peter. Um, first she starts calling him and she gets no response to his on the cell phone. This was strange because Peter always answered his phone. He's very loving and caring towards his family and concerned, so he always responded. So then she got a text saying, just come tomorrow." So this was also this brought up another red flag to her that because that's not how Peter responded to any messages. So then she texts him, okay, I love you. So then it was sometime later she got another text back from him from his cell phone. We're not sure who was sending he was sending these texts. So she got a text from his cell phone that said, just come tomorrow. So that was very strange to her, because he never responded to anyone, his family, his entire, pretty much his entire adult life. His family has said even at his funeral that Peter never responded to anyone without saying, "I love you." "See you later. I love you." And that was his normal response. To even to friends and anyone. That was his response. And when she did not get that type of response, then she said she had a bad feeling in her gut. So she goes home. Peter's mother and his fiance continue to attempt to contact Peter all night. Peter's phone is going directly to voicemail. They're not getting any messages or any responses from Peter. So the mother calls asking the girlfriend, the fiance, had she heard from Peter. The fiance, the same thing with the mother. They got no response from Peter. So then the fiance gets up in the morning. Because she had a bad feeling in her gut. She drives to Venango County. No one calls her. No one tells her that at this time that Peter had been lynched. So then once she drives and she gets to Venango County, she's about approximately 2 to 5 minutes away from where where she dropped Peter off at. So when she's on her way down the road, she gets a call from Peter's mom, and Peter's mom tells her to pull over. So she says, "Well, I'm not pulling over. I'm almost there. I'm a few minutes away." So then Peter's mom tells her that Peter had been shot. So once she pulls on the scene where she dropped Peter off at. She sees state troopers in yellow crime scene tape around the body laying on the grass. So once she gets out the car and approaches the crime scene, then the state trooper comes up to her and tells her that 29-year-old Mr. Peter Spencer had been shot and was dead. So then after that, the fiance says the PA state trooper puts her in a police car. Tells her that Peter had been shot. That he thinks that there was some sort of altercation, and the person that was in custody is claiming that he shot Peter in self-defense.
And who is that? Was that one of the other people that
Nathan Myers, the exact person that Peter's co-worker, the person that invited Peter up to be lynched and to be hunted. So this is the person that I guess got the prey, and he was taken into custody, and he was released. They're saying, we've gotten several different stories that, he was released immediately. Then we have stories that he wasn't released until December 30th. But, the law says that you cannot hold someone, the police cannot detain anyone for longer than, I believe, 24 hours without filing any charges against them. So no matter what the story is, it doesn't make sense, because the only way that Mr. Myers could be in custody until December 30th was if they arrested him about 13, 14 times within that time period, because they would literally have to be in compliance with the law. They would have to arrest him every 24 hours. They would have to bring him into custody, question him, then let him go, and then bring him back into custody, and they would had to do that about 14 times for him to be released on December 30th, if that was true. But we're not believing any of the things that we've heard. We know that it's a travesty. We know that this young man was shot 9 times. And that alone is not sufficient to hold a self-defense plea. So any law enforcement officer that accepts a self-defense plea after someone has admitted to shooting someone multiple times, it doesn't even have to be 9 times. And in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you cannot use self-defense as an affirmative defense if you had a way to escape the danger, right? Because my mom was a paralegal. I was raised around judges. I was raised around lawyers. And when I was, in the streets, and when I was, growing up, I would say that, oh, well, if somebody do something, I'll just claim self-defense. And my mother and the judges would always tell me, and you're going to jail. Because you cannot claim claim it all you want, but you're going to jail, because that does not work in the court, in the law. Because the law states that if you have a way to flee the danger, then you cannot claim self-defense. And you cannot claim self-defense shooting someone multiple times. And you cannot claim self-defense shooting someone in the back, in the butt. So any law enforcement officer that accepts that, either doesn't know their job or just isn't doing their job. So either way, it's unacceptable to us.
Okay, so now that the Black Political Empowerment Party is involved, and also you and the Black Caucus, have you had any luck contacting the legislators in your state, or the district attorney, or anyone else? Is anything happening? Like, what's the status now?
Said, since we've been involved, both BPEP or Black Political Empowerment Project, our chairman, Tim Stevens, and I just want to say that we just want to thank Chandi Chapman, who is an African American reporter here in Pennsylvania on our WTAE Channel 4 station here, because Chandi was the only reporter that took this story serious. Right now, everybody wants to get on it, and we have our other news networks here that want to try to play leapfrog and all of that thing, But Chandi was the one that took this story serious, right? Chandi was the one that did her due diligence, that made the calls, that did the investigative reporting, that did the journalists to get Peter's story out there to the news, to get other networks to basically, jump on the bandwagon. And, as in Pittsburgh, African Americans are doing worse off here in anywhere in the country, and African American females are worse off here than anywhere else in the country. And, her as an African American female reporter, who has Jamaican friends, who knows the struggles as I do, that the community comes in, for her to use her, her platform to shine light on this issue that no one else, cared about. So we just want to thank her. And, so she was one of the first people that I reached out to shine light on this story, because we are activists here, and my grandmother always told me you have to have a good relationship with the media when you're trying to make change for your people, because they have the access to more people than you could reach, yourself. So I just want to thank her. So she was one of the first people that I reached out to. She got on board. She got the wheels moving and got people, interested, and got the station to, to air the story. And then, from there, we went on. So from our Black Political Empowerment Project, we wrote a letter and sent a letter to the Venango County District Attorney, Mr. Sean White. We sent the letter to the Pennsylvania State Troopers Association. We sent the letter to the Franklin County State Troopers Barracks. We sent the letter to our governor, Tom Wolf. We sent the letter to the U.S. Department of Justice, demanding that they, look into and, take over this investigation. We've demanded that, our Attorney General Josh Shapiro, look into this, and we're, demanding that because in Pennsylvania, in order for the Attorney General to get involved with a case, the local district attorney has to refer the case to the Attorney General until we change that law. But as of today, we're demanding that he do that, because, and I've sent out over 800 political emails to all of my political network around the world, not just in America, but, we have over 25,000 Democrats abroad around the world. And I'm sending out to the chair of our Democrats abroad, to, the chair of our Democratic National Committee, Black Caucus, who are dumbfounded, one, that they have not heard of this prior to my email, and two, that the lack of action and concern for the loss of a 29-year-old, life of a 29-year-old Jamaican immigrant. So we are now, demanding justice. We have already heard, we got a call today when we were actually on our way, and this just show you how God works. The day was shining when we were returning Peter, back to God, his body back to the earth. And as we were pulling into the cemetery, the governor's office called us and told us that they received our letter, that they're, openly, looking into this, but they have to stay independent, because we can't have, any appearance of impropriety. So they are just basically saying that, informing us that they did receive the letter that we sent to them, from BPEP, and that they are aware of this situation, and that it's not going unnoticed, and that no one is sweeping this under the rug. Last night I got a call from the Attorney General's office, Josh Shapiro, because our Attorney General is running for governor, right? And I'm the chair of the Allegheny County Democratic Black Caucus, and no one gets elected, and it has gotten elected in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the last 80 years without me and my grandmother's help, and no one will get elected, and no one will get any support of or a single vote from our community. Our vote will decide the U.S. Senate race. Our vote of the African American and people of color in Pennsylvania. And sorry, my emotion, like in Pennsylvania, will decide, make the difference in this election like it did in every election. Our vote decided and made Joe Biden president of the United States. The work that we've done and my grandmother built the foundation that, got elected Joe Biden. I don't know if you can see that Pennsylvania sign behind me, the blue one, this one here. That is the actual sign from President Obama's first inauguration. That was our delegation sign at the convention in 2008 in Denver, Colorado. And after the convention was over, on the convention floor, as I was one of maybe 4 African Americans from Pennsylvania, sitting on the floor of delegation, me and Franco Harris. And if you go look at if you rewind the film of President Biden's acceptance speech, you'll see my face looking up at the monitor, at at the convention. So after the convention was over and he accepted, as being what ended up being the first African American person of color president of the United States, that is the Pennsylvania delegation sign.
Wow.
And there were only 2 signs of it, and it's signed by I believe like 80% of the Pennsylvania delegation, including our then governor Ed Rendell and our now U.S. Senator Bob Casey. So I'm using every political leverage, every favor that they owe me, from going to get them popcorn to some other things that we won't mention unless there is no justice for Peter Spencer, and then I may have to open up my closet and see how many letters from grandma I can find, so we'll see. We'll see how things progress from here. But
Right.
but like I said, we're leaving no stone unturned, no phone uncalled, no email unsent, and no demand undemanded. So we're not taking this lightly. We're not letting this young man's death go in vain, go ignored, or be swept underneath the rug. Like you said, we're burned down.
Burn it down.
Down. If we don't get it, shut it down.
Burn it down.
Down it down.
Chronics have a song, he said, if the door not open, kick it over.
That's right. That's all I know. Because I was raised with civil rights activists. I was at John Lewis's funeral. I put my hand on his casket when they rolled him out, and I've had personal conversations with these civil rights leaders, that not just hearsay, not from watching a documentary, but from firsthand knowledge, because my grandmother was part of all of these movements in the building of the foundation of the Democratic Party, of this country, and the leaders, the great civil rights leaders that sadly we don't have, anymore. And we don't have people with as you say, the backbone to stand up straight and fight for what's right, because, without fear of reparation or someone doing something to them, just fighting for the rights for people that can't stand up and, and don't have the voice. And that's, that's our history in this country, because we've always had to fight. Like my grandma said, she was born fighting. She was put in a jail cell at 12 with her dad. You know what I mean? Little kids.
Wow.
Driving down the highway. You know?
And that's something else that I wanted to ask you about. Tell me the history of your grandmother. Tell me the history of your fights in the civil rights and activism, and what your origins are, so that we can give the people just an idea of who William Anderson is.
So my grandmother was born in 1922 in New Kensington. To my great grandmother was 100% Scotch Irish. So my great grandmother actually immigrated to America. So they came to America after the Great Potato Famine. Then after a little research into that, and discover, with the Irish, it wasn't a potato famine. It was actually that, it was slavery, right? Because the Irish lived on, they could not eat the food the potatoes that they actually harvested. And it wasn't until I got involved in someone, Irish governor or whatever they're called, some diplomat from Ireland or something, found out that I was, my grandma's great grandma was Irish, so he gave me some great history lesson on the potato famine, and it was slavery and all the rest of the stuff. So I guess I have it all in my blood, slavery all in my blood. So when my grandmother in 1940, my grandmother at 18 moved from New Kensington, Pennsylvania, and worked at the Pentagon in segregated South Virginia in 1940 at 18 years old by herself.
Wow.
She moved to Virginia to work at the Pentagon. My grandma tells me that she was discriminated against and sat at the front of the bus before Rosa Parks ever thought about it. So my grandma says that she was the first Rosa Parks because she told the white man she wasn't giving up her seat in segregated Virginia in 1940. So at 18 years old. So then and she was in the civilian army. So all this time till the time that she passed away in 2015 at 93, I never knew what she did at the Pentagon. And I still to this day don't know what she did. Because she never told her, whatever told us. All it was is that we got the stories of her life outside of the Pentagon, living in Virginia. The racism, the not being able to use the same
Business.
um, yeah, but yeah, she keep that. Like I said, I still don't know, but but whatever she did, we're still here today, and she was a powerful woman when she passed away. But then from there, when she returned home in 1940, that's when she met my grandfather. So my grandfather was in the Navy. So my grandfather was in the war. All of the men in my family were in the army on my grandma's side. They were all of the wars: Korea, World War II. All all of the wars. So when she came home, that's when she met my grandfather. When he came home from the war. So her and my grandfather got married, and they bought their first house. So my great grandfather, my grandmother's husband, was the first African American head of the Homewood Business Association. So where I live at now in Homewood, Brushton is, it's the ghetto and things now, but it was where all the Italians and the Jews lived, back in the day before the black folks moved in. So my grandfather was the first black head of the Homewood Business Association. This had to be back in like 1950 or something like that, when blacks started to migrate from the South during the civil rights and all of those things. So then, my grandmother got involved with the way she got involved with politics is she was a member of the Parent Teacher Association.
Wow.
And my mother and my uncle Titi, they went to the school that they went to was about I would say like almost 2 miles from my grandmother's house. So the school district, once the city started to become, the blacks started moving into Homewood, the school district wanted the kids to walk from my grandmother's house to the school. So my grandmother organized a protest, and the Parent Teacher Association got school busing for the city kids, for the kids of the city of Pittsburgh,
Right.
because they did not want their kids walking that far to school. And my grandmother, no matter, because my grandmother always told me how they had to walk 5 miles to school in the dirt, barefoot, back and forth in the snow and all that stuff. But so they didn't want my mom and them to do that. So then they organized. My grandma was the head of the PTA. So then they organized and they got school busing. So then they organized and they got because there weren't TVs in the school, right? So that's when the televisions were coming in, and they wanted the kids that it was wartime, right? So they were afraid that the Nazis were coming. So they wanted TVs in the classroom so that the kids could be aware of and see what was happening, in the world. So they lobbied to get televisions, in the school. So from that point, my grandmother became an activist, and she's a member of the church. Our family helped build our church, our Baptist temple, our family church. So once she got involved with the church, she was in the church and she was in the PTA. Then the political, the white politicians, caught on to her, and it was mostly Italian because my grandmother was raised with a lot of Italians growing up in New Kensington, because she was in several foster homes during her
Yes. I wonder if I caught the
So
message.
it's back.
Okay.
Yeah. So then from there, once all the war leaders, because they needed someone that could deal with the uprising of the increase in population of the African American community in their community, because all of the blacks, they segregated from the South, they moved to Pittsburgh, from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, during the segregation and all of these towns. So then once my grandmother got involved, they came to her because of her association with the PTA and how she had the connections with all the parents and things like that, and asked her to run for committee person. So in the in the political party structure, there are different levels of participation into the political committee, the party committee. So you begin, you're a committee person, and the committee person is responsible for taking care of about a quarter mile of the neighborhood, like it's a few blocks. So there's a male and female committee person for every precinct in the ward. So there are different wards and precincts and things like that that you represent in your community. So the committee person is supposed to be, back then, that was a powerful position because there was a different party structure and a different dynamic of the immediate need for change, and that politics was the only way that people of color were ever going to get true representation and things like that. That was the way of the new world, and our access to change and true advancements was only through the ballot box and our voting power, because it makes everybody equal, in this country, whether you take advantage of it or not. But your ballot equalizes everyone. So whether you have $1 million or whether you have $1 trillion or whether you don't have a penny, you get that same vote. Right. And your vote is only valued is if you value it, and if you make it valuable, and if you make it worth by your active, and that's our BPEP model, that black people and African Americans vote in each and every election. Because without that constant voter power and that constant block of consistent, participation in the voter electoral process, which is how this country is governed and how you get your freedom and how you get all of the things that you need. You get schools, you get proper education, you get jobs, you get education, you get justice, right? You don't get acts of violence against people that vote in each and every election. That does not happen to them. They get justice. They get school. They get funding. They get everything that they need, because that is what this country understands and respects, is the ballot box, because that is what controls the government and gives them the capability to control the money, which in the end is what it's all about, right? It's not governing, it's about controlling a funding system that allows you to control power, because money is what most people need to live and survive one way or the other. So those who control the bank control the power. Right. Because they can confuse and use the people that don't understand that the vote is the power. The money isn't the power, it's the vote. People wouldn't, and if it wasn't so important, they wouldn't be trying to steal it. So that was my grandmother's whole focus, was to get more power for blacks through the political process and through the system by using the influence of the community's vote that person needed in order to be able to make change, right? Either good change or bad change. That person is in office and needs you to put them there in order to make that change. Whether you go and you just vote for them blankly, have just blank supporters like the former president does, that just does whatever, and it doesn't matter what you say or anything like that. Or you have educated people, right, that fight for their community and understand that the only way that you're going to ever get justice for someone like Peter Spencer is to have control and unapologetically leadership that isn't going to care about personal effects of fighting for people, right? Isn't going to care about what's going to happen. Well, I can't say this because somebody may get mad, or I may not get this position that I want, or I may not get elected to this office because I don't want to upset these people because they're the ones that really vote. But the black folks, they don't really vote, so it doesn't matter. So I don't want to say that this man means anything because that I don't need them at this time. right? But had this been an election year, right, 2020, the presidential election or something like that, everybody in the world would have been, oh, we can't have that because they needed us to get to where they want to go.
Right.
So it's like bringing a friend along because you know they have gas money, right? So you don't really want them to come. You just need gas, and the only way you're going to get to where you're going is if they come because they have the things that you need to help you get to where you're going. But as soon as you get there, or a lot of times it's not even that. It's, you know, they'll fill up your tank, and then as soon as you put around the corner, your phone rings, and you're like, oh man, don't you know what just happened? My babysitter canceled on me. I got to drop you off, right? And then you ride on and continue your life with a full tank of gas. But that person is left. He's only spent his money, but he thought that he was going to get something out of helping you,
Right.
you know, and providing for you. So you know, from there, then my grandmother, she was appointed by our governor, Milton Schapp. So if you can, I don't know if you can see my pen, but
I
if you see this, yeah. So they say they can see the pen. Okay, yeah. So this, like I was saying, so they can see the pen. You can't see. So as I was saying, this pen is older than me. So this is the pen that you know. This is a story that I get. So if you're in politics and you're like really, and you've been in politics a long time, and you're a real, you know, elected official or anything, as soon as you see this pen, they are, you know, like, it's amazing that the reaction I get from people around the country in different events and stuff when they see this pen, because they don't make them like this anymore. And like I said, this pen is older than me. This pen is probably 50 years old. So when people, politicians around the country see it, they're like, and I like two pens, and like this pen is just our Democratic Party from the Democratic National Committee pen. So when they see the pens, they're like, oh, where'd you get that at? Oh, you must be important. Oh, I haven't seen that since, and especially the older people, like, that's older than you. Where'd you get that at? So then that brings on the story of my grandmother, and they're like, oh, okay. I thought you were just some little Negro that wandered off the street. You know, so you know, it brings a lot of you know, shock factor and things like that. So we're you know, we're in the process of you know, like what I like to try to say, what we're doing here is, you know, during COVID, you know, our Asians brothers and sisters were attacked.
Right.
Right. Our Latinos brothers and sisters, you know, were attacked because of the immigration. Our Palestinian brothers and sisters were flown here and brought here, I believe 85,000 of them to our country within, I believe, a few weeks or a month or something like that. So, you know, although we could, you know, they're used to seeing us march in the street, right? They're used to seeing us being antagonized and all that stuff, you know, and I've been a part of all of that. I've done the marches on Washington. We're tired of marching. No, we're demanding immediate results. We're not trying to go, you know, people have to work, people have lives, you know, it's Corona. We're not trying to be accused of spreading coronavirus or going up to Venango County and, you know, causing havoc. And because people, this is a very emotional time, right? People are very emotional. People react differently, and we can't control what someone may do. You know, we can't control, you know, I can demand, you know, and call for 10,000, 20,000 people to invade Venango County. But I don't want to believe that the entire Venango County is racist. I don't want to believe that all of these 1,200 people, you know, in this town are racist. And I don't want to bring unnecessary, you know, although it needs to be highlighted in publicity, but I don't want to, right, you can't get real justice and real closure by doing something to someone just specifically because they did something to you. So because this act, you know, happened in this town, you know, that doesn't, yes, we have the right to be upset. Yes, we have the right to demand justice, but that does not necessarily, and a lot of times, you know, it gets lost in our mission gets lost in the protests, in the crowds, in the action, because some things happen that we can't control. Right. So if we take 20,000 people to Venango County and two of those people do something bad in Venango County, then the other, you know, 19,998 people are going to take the blunt effect of that. So we're taking this on a different pattern, on a different, yes, there is a time, if we don't get the justice that we seek, we will shut down Venango County. We will take 100,000 people. We will bring the world to Venango County. As you saw the results of all the marches and the George Floyds and all of that. But we're tired of going through this every year, every 6 months, every 2 months, every time somebody happens. We want instant, immediate justice as if we were Asian American, as if we were Jewish American, as if we were Latino America. We want the protectance of this country for the color of our skin, and we want to be treated for the context of our character, not the color of our skin. We want the American dream. We demand the rights that the Constitution has promised us, not just in 2022, but for our total existence since we were brought to this country and forced to build it. We are demanding our rights. We don't have time to be marching and protesting and any of that. We demand that our elected officials who want our vote, who say that they represent us, who say that they are on our side, to show us with your actions, not with your words, or no one gets elected. No one gets our vote. So that's a point blank around the country. That's what we're saying. That's my stance, and I'm sticking to it. And it doesn't matter because, like I said, there are no consequences. Nothing that hasn't already been done to me that you can do. I owe no favors. I owe no debts. All I have is things that I've inherited and things that I've done to help people, and my grandmother has done, and we're using it all to get justice for Peter Bernardo Spencer.
Okay, and that's a good place to wrap it up. And on wrapping it up, Mr. Anderson, chair of the Allegheny County Democratic Black Caucus, tell me what is it that you expect from the Jamaican government, from any type of government, from the people that you have reached out to on behalf of the family of Peter Spencer. What exactly are you looking for, and what's the next step?
So this, our demand goes, around the world. So we're demanding justice, and we're demanding that the Jamaican government and the prime minister speak out and stand up and get justice for one of his citizens. We're not accepting, and I'm personally, insulted by the fact that one of his citizens was slaughtered on this land, and his silence. His silence is deafening. Like they say, it's not the yells of my enemy that I'm afraid of, but it is the silence of my friends when I am in peril, and those that are supposed to represent me. So the Jamaican Prime Minister, he'll be receiving more calls from me, more pressure. Everybody from Jamaica, the Jamaican citizens that are in Jamaica, I'm asking you to call the Prime Minister and ask him, what is he doing? Justice for Justice for Peter Spencer. We're demanding justice, and we are demanding and asking everyone to reach out to the Jamaican consulate, where the Jamaican embassy in New York, the Jamaican embassy in Washington, D.C., the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the British government, as Jamaica is a commonwealth of, Britain. What are you all doing? What are you doing to demand justice for this man? Who are you calling? Call the president, Joe Biden, see what is going on, call the embassy. You need to do something and fight for justice for this man. His life cannot be in vain and cannot be taken in this country that he was not a citizen of. He is a citizen of your country, and we demand you stand up for this man as we do. And we will continue, and we will take the fight to wherever we have to demand justice for Peter Bernardo Spencer and the family. And on a final note, Mr. Anderson, let me know, how do people get in touch with you if they have any information to give, or if they have any questions, if they want to interview you, or if they want to reach out to the family. What is the contact information? Who do they reach out to? And what's the information for getting in touch with you? I really can't hear you, but I think it's something about the question. So if anybody that has, like any information or anything, or wants to, help the family, has GoFundMe accounts, I'm sure that if you Google them, you can find their information. But, if anybody has any questions, or anybody wants any comments, or, wants to know about this case, you can reach out to me personally, William Anderson, at 412-628-4199. Again, William Anderson, 412 628-4199. My email address is willworksforyou. That is WILLWORKS, the number 4YOU at gmail.com. And you can Google me. You can find me on Facebook as William Anderson, Instagram Will Works for You, and on Twitter as Will Works for U1S, I think.
Yeah, one minute.
But yeah, you can
Um,
you can Google me or link me through her, and
go ahead.
we're available. And you can call me anytime. I'm available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, I have my own body shop, Pittsburgh's Finest Auto Body. We're open 7 days a week, 8:30 to 5. So you can find me at 7618 Finance Street in Pittsburgh, PA 15208. I'm there 7 days a week, 8:30 to 5. And outside of that, you can call, text. I always answer my phone, email me, send me a inbox, DM me, or whatever. And, like I said, we're fighting for everybody. So, no problems, too big, no problems too small. Don't think if you need help or you need to reach out to somebody, don't be ashamed, because we all have issues and we all need help. So don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, because somebody cares. It may take you a while to find someone, but God doesn't make no mistakes and leaves no one behind. So. Mm.
And on that note, Mr. William Anderson, I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for sitting here with us. I want to thank you for giving us your energy and giving us all of this information and helping to bring clarity to the case of Peter Spencer. Hashtag Peter Spencer. Hashtag justice for Peter Spencer.
We're not going to stop. Until this young man gets justice. Thank you, and talk to you soon.
Talk just
Later.
I don't know if you can hear me now, but we were here and we were live with William Anderson, the chair for the Allegheny County Democratic Black Caucus. And we were discussing hashtag Peter Spencer, and we are seeking hashtag justice for Peter Spencer. I want to thank Mr. Anderson so much for coming on. I want to thank Mr. Anderson for being proactive in the case of Peter Spencer. I think this family has found somebody who is willing to stand up for them, and not just for Peter Spencer, but also anybody out there. If you're having any issues, discrimination, anything that's occurring, the Black Caucus is here for us, each and every one of us. As I said, the Black Caucus, their statement is, Blacks have no permanent friends. We have no permanent enemies. We only have permanent interests. Okay. The Black Caucus is there to help bring justice for the dispossessed and all of the people of color such as ourselves. So I want to thank him so much for being here. Conrad Spencer is also here, Peter Spencer's dad. I want to thank you for coming on to the show, Conrad. I want to thank you for, giving us your ears and your energy, because we are definitely looking for justice for Peter. When I saw this story and I heard this story, it really touched me, and I was hurt to see that something like this could happen. And not a lot of people were talking about it, because, as he said, the there may be about 3, 4, 5 people in that county that are people of color, and it is something that we have to bring awareness to. I'm asking you to reach out. You're welcome so much. I'm asking you to reach out to the Prime Minister of Jamaica. I'm asking you to reach out to the Consulate of Jamaica. I'm asking you to reach out to the Governor of Venango County. I'm asking you to reach out to the Attorney General. If you are an activist, if you are someone who is moved and touched by this story, I'm asking you to reach out for justice for Peter. If you can assist the family in any way, I'm going to post a GoFundMe in the comments once I am finished with the live. I'm going to save the live so you guys can have it. Also, I'm going to post it to every one of my platforms. I'm also going to post a GoFundMe in the comments of every one of my platforms. Conrad Spencer is on the line. He's the Peter's dad, so you can always go into his inbox. Also, if you have any questions, but we're actually asking you to contact Mr. Anderson, because he is the face and the voice of the family, because he has the authority in which to speak for them. As someone who has been fighting for people that like us,
for all of the days of his life, as his grandmother used to do, and something that has been instilled and birthed in him. I am so excited that we were able to have this conversation, that we are able to get the answers to the questions that were being asked, because there were so many questions about, Peter and what's going on and everything. And so I'm glad that we were able to bring clarity. Peter was not hunting. He was just hanging out with someone that he thought was his friend that he had hung out with before. The person who lured him to his death was the one who he thought was his friend. So, guys, be careful out there, okay? Be very, very, very careful out there. It's a new day. It's a new time. All right. Be careful of your circumstances. Be careful of your surroundings. Be careful of your environment. Be very observant. Okay. If you find yourself in a situation that you think that you will not be safe, leave immediately. All right. Remember Peter. We will not forget his name. We will say his name. Peter Spencer. I want to thank you all for coming on tonight. I want to thank you for all of the donations and all of the gifts and all of the help and all of the blessings that has gone to the Spencer family. I ask that you continue to keep them in your prayers. I ask that you continue to say Peter's name, and in any way that you can assist this family, that you will go ahead and do so. If you are a blogger, an interviewer, someone in the media, anyone, can you reach out to them, assist them? Can you help to share the plight? Can you help to let this man's name be known? Because he is one of us. I don't care if you're American, Jamaican, from Dubai. I don't. It doesn't matter, because a representative of wherever you're from exists in this nation. And if something should happen to someone like them, like what happened to Peter, it could be any one of us. It could be any nation, an immigrant that's not from this country and wasn't born here, that something like this could occur to. So I am asking you to look into yourself and see if you can share this, so that we can get justice for Peter. I'm asking you to go onto Conrad Spencer's IG, his Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is. Share a post. Share with Gofundme. If you're an activist and you can assist Mr. Anderson in the issue that we have, I'm asking you to reach out to them. If you have a bigger platform, if you have a smaller platform, if you have the same platform as I do, I'm asking you to share this information. And I want to thank you so much. All right. And you have a great night. Thank you. It's been Cafetiere Lavish with Mona in the Fatigable Heights. Good night. All lives matter, Mr. Spencer. And I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight and being here for the show. And just know that this is not the end. So we're gonna follow it. I'm gonna continue to give updates. I might give my little videos here and there. I'll be keeping in touch with Mr. Anderson about what happens while we fight for Peter Spencer. Say his name, #Peter Spencer. Good night.